Hey, welcome to the Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore. Thank you for listening. We're jumping in here to episode 22 of the Coach's Locker Podcast. And today we're talking about 6 things an athletic director looks for on a resume. Folks, I want you to walk away from this podcast with a very clear indication and a very clear roadmap to helping your resume get better if you don't feel real great about it. For those who are never going to leave the job they're currently in, they're going to die there. Probably save yourself some time and not listen to the podcast. Just being real honest. Today, 6 things an athletic director looks for on a resume. This is all built off of my own experience, obviously, as an athletic director. And then also, we feature another conversation here with Coach Butler from Trinity International University. Coach Butler has been very kind to join us every week to talk through being a head football coach at the collegiate level for his first time ever. So we're going to jump into that interview with Coach Butler first, and then we're going to hit on the 6 things an athletic director looks for on your resume. Thank you for listening. You are listening to the Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore, a place for all coaches to call home. The Coach's Locker Podcast is a part of the Football Coaching Podcast Network. Please visit footballcoachingpodcast.com to hear and see our entire lineup of top football coaches coming to you every single podcast with valuable information to help you and your program. The Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore exists to help prepare coaches to be hired for the job of their dreams and to provide coaches with dynamite resources to become even more successful in their field. You can reach me on Twitter at Coach Fore. That's at COACHFORE. And my podcast home is at 8laces.org/podcast. That's 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. Welcome to the Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore. Now, let's get after it. Hands up, forget about the past, 'cause you and I's everything I ever asked for. Top down round the West Coast. All right, well, we're here with Coach Butler again. Coach Butler, if you're new to the podcast, we've been following him this season. He's the head football coach at Trinity International University out in Deerfield, Illinois. This is his first season as a head coach there at the NAIA school. Coach Butler, welcome. Thanks for joining us again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, Coach, yeah, we've been, we kind of chatted off the air there before we got going, but saw you guys dropped a game yesterday to St. Andrews University. You were out on the road, and Coach, what'd you guys take away from this week's program, this week's practices and games?
Yeah, I think it's when you're building culture, trying to change the program around. There's a lot of different factors that go into that, and I heard it today. When I was at church, the toughest things, the best things are never easy. They're some of the toughest things that you got to go through to, kind of get to where you want to be at. And so I think with us and trying to change the program around, sometimes, you get a little bit of resistance, but then sometimes you're also, in our situation, we're young as well. And so just trying to get our guys to understand, what it means to go through that process and making sure that we're doing all those little things right, play in and play out, and a lot of those little things, they add up to big things. And, some of that comes with youth. Some of it comes down to, are we coaching it? And so we got to take a look at that as well. And then some of it comes down to, resistance. And so I think that's kind of where, we're at right now is, our young guys, they got a chance to play a little bit more in the second half against some of their young guys, and so and I was very proud of the way we finished the game and, our young guys competing. And then, even with the entire team, we our goal was to win the second half, which, we did that obviously. And then, So them just not giving up, but continuing to fight. And then, starting to see those little things, show up here and there, but we got to do it for the entire game. We start out, first quarter was 21-0, had a turnover, I think was on the set. I think we threw an interception on the second play of the game. We had two fourth down stops defensively our first two drives, which was good, so showing some resiliency there even after their turnover. But then, we give up a big play. And then, special teams also comes into effect. We give up a big return, whether it's a punt or a kickoff. In this case, it was, a big punt return. We got out of our lanes there, missed a tackle, and then it kind of broke out. So they started with the ball in the red zone. And so, then they finished the drive off. I think it was a couple plays, I think 2 plays or something like that. And then, and then after that, it's the mindset you got to have when things start going bad, and here for a long time, it's been when things go bad, all right, they're just going to get worse. Instead of digging your feet in there and, continuing to grind it out, doing what got you there. And so I think that's where, it kind of got away from us. We were down 49-7 at halftime, a big deficit, ended up losing 52-14. So gave up 3 points in the second half. So, which was good, but we definitely have to get better to get to where we want to be at.
Yeah, Coach, I see you guys threw 5 interceptions yesterday. Was that all with the same?
4.
Oh, 4. Okay. You got to tell your stat guy.
4,
You got to tell your stat guy to fix the website.
Yeah, that was their. This is from their SID.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so so we did throw 5. One of them was actually, you know what? No, that did count. Never mind. Yes, we threw 5. I apologize.
Okay, was it a trick play or something or what?
No. We threw 5. We threw a shovel pass. This is the last interception.
Oh.
Threw a shovel pass. The D lineman intercepted it.
Oh no.
And he scored, but then and it has it as a touchdown on here, but they called it back. The interception stood, but the touchdown didn't. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh,
because he was taunting before he got to the end zone. And then when that happened, defense came up with a stop, and then they missed the field goal on 4th down.
Oh, good.
Which, that was a bright spot. Yeah, that was a bright spot. And then, we did throw 5 interceptions. Our starter, he threw 4 of them. And then our freshman backup, he came in. He did a really good job outside of that one play where the D lineman just made a great play.
Yeah.
He threw an 83-yard touchdown pass. And,
wow.
He had some good operations on our drive. So was really encouraged by that and seeing that. So
yeah. When do you decide? Okay, this kid's thrown 4 interceptions. When do you decide? Like, what goes into deciding to pull him out and have somebody else get in there for the rest of the day?
I think it's kind of where the flow of the game is. I think you think about do I want to continue to play a guy who's having this tough of a game, and there's some other things that go along with it as well, practice and meetings, stuff like that, and what you see out of that time. And so do I want to continue to put this guy or leave this guy in the game and let him work through it, or do you want to give another guy a shot? And so that was a time where the offensive coordinator and I, we talked about it, and we were like, let's just go with the other guy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I saw you retweeted something from your recruiting coordinator, and it caught my attention the other day. Players who love football. It says players who love football are greater than the greater than symbol. Players who love to be recruited. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, Coach? Because I know we're starting to get into that recruiting period.
Yep. I think it's more of today you have social media, and so like when I was in high school, which is about 14 years ago. Yeah, 14 years ago when I graduated high school, it was a little different because we had VHS tapes. You had to send them out to the schools. There was no media attention on, who was offering guys and stuff like that. We had no idea, and so it was real easy for a coach, a college coach, to see, if a guy really loved football. And, the reason we say that guys who love football are greater than guys who love being recruited is because the recruiting cycle ends at some point in time. And, no matter how many offers you racked up or, any accolades that you've had, once you get into the grind of college football, and most guys think, man, college football, they have the Division I aspirations and stuff like that. They think, it's all, man, it's good. All they see is game day, Yeah. And they see the fun that guys are having on game day. I watched a little bit of the Alabama game last night and the LSU Alabama game, and man, the atmosphere was crazy, and that's what, most guys see. And they don't really see the work that goes into, being a great football player or a great college football player. And it's hard, and some guys can take it, and usually it's the ones who do love football, because there's going to come a point in time where, it's not going to be what you want it to be, right? You're going to have those days where, man, this is tough. I don't feel like getting up for weights. I don't feel like getting up for class, or, man, I was at practice, then I got meetings, then I got class, then I got weights, and, there's a whole lot that goes into it. And the guys that love getting recruited, they love the attention that they get, from social media, being able to put blessed to receive an offer from, and, that's the big thing nowadays. They like putting that online, and, they're blessed to receive an offer from, this school. And the one that really gets me, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, is where they say blessed to receive my 15th offer. They have 15 or 30 offers, you know what I'm saying? And, those are the ones you want to kind of, you got to really dig into to kind of see if they really love football, because the recruiting period is going to stop and they're going to have to play. You're going to get into camp, and you're going to have to go through that grind of camp. And, most guys who love being recruited, they just love putting the stuff out on social media. And then, once it's time to put the work in, they don't want to put the work in, and then, but you got some guys who, some of them will put it out there, and obviously that's what they're doing today. But, some guys really love football, and, the grind that you got to go through to be successful and be good, going through that process. And so, the guys who really love football, you like being around those guys, is because it's not, when something goes bad or something is tough or something's hard, it's still football to them. And so they know they got to get through it. Whereas the one who's getting recruited likes the idea of getting recruited when all the bells and whistles and the retweets and the recruiting visits are over and it's time to get to work, they're lost or missing in action. So that's why he put that up, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. That's why I retweeted it.
Is that kind of a motto that you guys are using this off season?
I don't know. We haven't talked about that as being a motto. I just think it's something that, we talk about it with our coaching staff all the time. We got to find the right guys who are going to fit here, and then, we got to find guys who love football, because, for us right now, especially, we're going through a time of change, and change is always hard. It's good, but it's hard, because you got to do things that, you're probably not used to doing, and, you got to change the ways that you go about doing things. And so, I think that's kind of, we've talked about that in terms of finding guys who are, kind of those blue collar guys, those guys who, are under the radar and love to play football rather than, the guys looking for, you'll get some guys in your inbox, as you're talking to them, trying to get to know them, the next question they ask is, okay, coach, what do I need to get an offer from you? And that shows me right there, you're not serious about, playing football. You just want the offer so you can post on social media, and so that's why we're kind of, it's kind of something that, it wasn't a model that we've talked about in terms of, this is what we're going to put out on social media, but it's something we do, discuss as a staff, and, we talk about regularly.
Yeah. Coach, so I had a season. You guys are sitting at, 0-9 right now. Really, I don't count that. You guys won your first game. Technicality, you had to forfeit. So sitting at 1-8. I mean, I had an 0-10 season once. It was an awful season. Are you kind of looking forward to this year getting over? I mean, obviously you want to honor your seniors. You got senior day coming up next Saturday, but in the back of your mind, are you kind of looking just to get this season over with and move on to next year?
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm kind of in, both worlds, where we definitely, got this week to where, we have another opportunity on Saturday to play a football game. And obviously we want to win that football game. So not neglecting this, but then also, it is kind of exciting, especially, you're kind of in the middle of that recruiting period where, guys are going to start making their decisions and stuff like that. Where this is a fun time as a college coach also, because you get to recruit and you also get to, for us, this spring is going to be big for us because we're going to, this will be like a full year with our guys and then also, building what we're trying to build. That's what we're kind of looking forward to as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm sure you're in a lot better, situation this year, like you said, having that full off season to do your thing, which is good for you. I know last year, you got hired in January?
Yep.
Yeah. So what about, have you had any, and maybe you can't answer this, I would understand that, but have you had any coaches yet tell you they're not returning, not coming back at all?
Nope, not yet.
No, okay. So I'm wondering, what is that movement like at the NAI level, Coach? Do you think you're gonna, lose some guys that move on? Is there a lot of stability where guys are with you for a while?
Yeah, I think it's based on, resources and, what the school can handle and basically the size of your staff, and so for us, we're looking at creative ways because we don't have a whole lot of funds to staff, a full staff in terms of, 7 or 8 full-time coaches, and so we got to be creative with how we do that. And so, and being creative in that, you're not able to, pay a guy as much as, that you think they should get paid or something like that. So you'd have to, usually with our, our restricted earnings positions, those are usually kind of revolving doors where you may have a guy for a couple seasons, but then he'll get a job somewhere and I encourage that. But so I think, with our full-time coaches, I think, we're going to have some stability there, but most of the, the lower positions in terms of pay, those are the ones where we usually have, some turnover.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That does become a tough situation for guys. I think a lot of guys, I speak to so many guys at the high school level who want to coach college, and a lot of times they just don't understand how much how much some of the lower levels make. I had a defensive. I think maybe you and I have talked about it. I can't remember if it was on a podcast or not, but I had a Division III defensive coordinator. He made $10,000 on the year. I mean, that's it. Division III level, $10,000, and I find he came to me, asked me to help him with a resume. He was trying to find a new job, and I talked a couple times to him on the phone. So fine, just asked, man, how'd you live on $10,000 a year? So he said, in this situation, his dad was pretty wealthy, and he allowed him to, chase that college football dream till he was 30. So his dad helped to supplement, but he was single, no kids. He got a meal card as well. So he just said, hey man, I'm trying to find something here before I turn 30. I can make a little more money. So, not all of us have parents who can foot those bills till we're 30 years old. But, and
that's kind of the situation. It also, it depends on, that coach's situation as well. If I was single and, I only had to worry about myself and, I was only making $10,000 a year, I could probably, tough that out, but, you get a family and kids and a wife that you got to support, it's kind of, you just can't jump at any job.
Yeah, no, can't do it. Well, hey, Coach, good luck for you, and your guys as you move in here to last game of the year next weekend, and you got a team coming in for last game and home game, University of St. Francis. Coach, what's this game looking like right now? How are you feeling about your last game?
I feel confident that our guys will come out and, play as hard as they can. As far as St. Francis, they're always a well-coached team, have some pretty good athletes, I think the past couple of years. So let me see. The past couple of years, I know in 2016, we blocked a field goal to win the game here. And then 2017, we were, that was a game we were playing with turnovers. I think we had 6 turnovers. And so I think we got beat. It was like 50-something to 20-something, like 28 or something like that. I can't remember. But, it's been a battle, the last couple of years. And so we're, looking for a good game, and it'll be a competitive one. So.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Coach, good luck this week as you guys prepare. Thanks again for coming on, and you can follow Coach Butler on Twitter at Coach Butler. That's at Coach Butler, and then TIU for Trinity International University. Coach, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right, today we're going to be talking about your resume, and we're going to talk specifically about 6 things I think an athletic director sees, looks for, wants on a resume to help make a difference. Now, listen, I'm in the business. I've got a side business called 8 Laces Consulting. Most of you know that, but I help coaches nationwide. About 70% of my business is at the high school level. About 30% of my business is at the college level. I have had an NFL coach, one, in the last 6 years of doing this. Let's see, I started doing this in 2012, so going into my 6th off season here. I've had a coach who spent 45 years at about 23 or 24 different junior colleges, who came to me once for a resume. That was amazing, helping him to put together that many years of coaching. I've had ones come to me with 0 coaching experience trying to get a junior high job. So experience crosses the gamut of all those different types of scenarios. As I said, 70% of the business is high school coaches looking to make a move. And then about 30% at the NAIA Division III, a few Division IIs I've had over the years, but mainly Division III, lower tier Division II, and then NAIA college coaches. I've had a Division II, a couple. Let's see, 3. I've had 3 Division II head football coaches. One who had never been a head coach at the NC2A level. He had only been a coordinator, and he came to me, hey, there's a job, that job I really want has come open. I need help putting together my resume. I found you online, and we did that, and he secured himself, not only an interview, but then also that Division II head football coach job at the NC2A level. So that was pretty fun to walk through that experience with him. And then 2 other NC2A coaches who were fired and, came to me, NC2A Division II head coaches who were fired and kind of at their wits' end, how do I put together a resume now that I've been fired? One of those guys, we put together a phenomenal resume for him, which focused not on the head coaching aspect. He had been a head coach for 4 years, did not have a very good record when you looked at it. So we addressed his career as an offensive coordinator. That career helped him get hired, obviously, as a head coach. Didn't have a lot of success as a head coach win-loss record. So he was fired or resigned, asked to step down type of deal. And so we studied and we put together a tremendous offensive coordinator type of resume. And sure enough, he landed an OC job at a school and was very happy, is very happy still there, just wrapping up his 3rd season there. So it's all, I've had a lot of success with the resume writing business because I've been an athletic director. And here's the thing. A lot of coaches will come to me, they've already hired somebody, but they've hired a business resume writer, and somebody in the business world has 0 clue what they're doing in the world of athletics and the world of coaching. So that's where I see a lot of coaches make a mistake. And they're paying, like, some people, they're paying an executive resume writer because they think that's a nice fancy title or what have you, $350 to put together a resume. And this person has 0 idea of what to put on there because they're writing an athletic resume for the first time ever. So This is just a short, little, tiny sales pitch, because today I'm going to be giving you a lot of, secrets of what someone's looking for on a resume. But there's a point where guys get, they just get done. They get tired and overwhelmed with putting together a fantastic resume. And so that's the type of guy who comes to me. Or their resume is just not getting them in the door for an interview. And you can go on my website, 8laces.org, EIGHTLACES.org /resume, and you can read the testimonials on there, and you can see what guys are saying, okay, if you're interested in that. To be very honest with you, my business has really expanded every single year. My first year of doing these, I had no idea how much to charge. I just know that it takes time to put together a good one. So we started at $59. I had too much business. We raised that to $79, raised that to $99. Long story short, going into my 6th season here, the supply and demand is now they're at $149 here in 2018. Last year they were at $129 last season, and I had one resume order every single day in December. And so that gets very time consuming because I do this on the side and I want to do a really good job. So 31 resumes in December is way too many. I had about 25 in November. And so anyhow, supply and demand, good thing for me, I guess. And my kids' college funds, or my student loans, actually. Student loans I'm paying off. But, that's what it is. So $149 is how much they cost now. As I said, some guys they have no faith in how to write a resume anymore. It's not working for them. They're not getting in the room, or they just don't want to try to put it together. They're at their wits' end, and so they come to me. So if you're interested, again, 8laces.org, and then you'll see up at the top consulting, click on resume, and that's how you would place an order. But I've also got something that would be really helpful for you, a couple different resources. One main resource for your resume. I actually put this together on CoachTube. So I believe it's CoachTube like YouTube, CoachTube.com. And I put together, it's an hour and a half, okay? It's 90 minutes. I spent a lot of time putting together this course, and it's 90 minutes on 29 mistakes coaches make on their resume. And it's for sale on there. It's on CoachTube for $29. If you use the code resume, the coupon code resume, you'll get it for $9. I mean, that's really not very much money. $9. So if you want to take a stab at putting together your own resume this off season, do that. Listen to this podcast, what I'm going to say, and then get on and go to CoachTube. I don't know if you're familiar, if you've seen CoachTube, but it's an awesome resource with a lot of resources on there, videos on demand. And again, so I spent a lot of time putting one together for you guys, the coaches, as just a resource. Again, it's $29. It's 90 minutes. It's an hour and a half. 29 mistakes coaches make on their resumes. And the reason, obviously, I talk about those mistakes because I point out how to make them better. And so go on there. It's not an hour and a half straight. There's, 15, 20 different videos. And those videos are between, 2 to 15 minutes each or whatever. And again, that's a resource for you. Use that code resume. Use the coupon code resume. Save yourself $20. Okay. And again, I think that there's nothing out there. What I've done for the coaching profession, I don't see anybody else out there in the nation. And please, if I'm wrong on that, send me an email. Introduce me to whoever's doing this for coaches, because in 2011, I lost my job. A new superintendent came in to where I was working, a private school. I was unemployed for the first time ever, age 35, and I'm trying to write a coaching resume. I couldn't find anybody. That's one of the main reasons I got into this whole deal. So if there is somebody, let me know. I know there is one guy who runs a coaching search website, kind of like Football Scoop. It's kind of like that, and he does resumes. The downside is he's never been a head coach, so he's never hired assistants. He's never been an athletic director, so he's never hired coaches. Okay, so that's the downside there. Other than that guy, I don't know of anybody else in this space, so to speak. That's the cool word now. I don't know anybody doing this, and I really try hard to help a lot of folks. I do help a lot of folks on their resume building process, but I get so many questions, for the next 4 months here, so many emails, it kind of gets overwhelming, to be very honest with you. I just don't have as many hours in a day as I would like to, help as many guys who just want all the free advice, and that's fine. I help and give as much of that as I can, but this resource, the video I put together, I think is a no-brainer to get if you're looking to put a resume together yourself. And again, you're gonna get a lot of wisdom on there for $9. Make sure you use that coupon code. That's on CoachTube, okay? So I've kind of talked a little bit about how I got into this business, into helping. I love the feedback I get when I get feedback from guys saying, hey, I tried my own thing for the last 7 years and never got an interview. Or I've been looking for a head coach job for 3 years, never got an interview. Coach Fore did my resume. I got 4 interviews. That stuff pumps me up, man. That really pumps me up. I love that stuff. Again, you can read a lot of that stuff on my website. I don't post them all up there, but that stuff makes me excited to know that some of my work, some of my influence is helping guys get in that interview room. That's my main goal. That's the main goal of a resume. Not to get you the job per se, but to get you in the interview room. From there, buddy, you gotta do a great job. And that's another thing I do is interview prep. I'll be very honest with you. I don't like it nearly as much as the resume work. The interview prep, that takes a long time, but I do a mock interview on the phone. And then I don't like it, too, because I got to charge a lot for it because it takes so much time. But I do a mock interview on a phone, and then I go through and write up a report on all your answers and some of my suggestions and stuff. But I really don't like doing those, to be very honest with you. And then I kind of feel bad, too, because it is an expensive deal. But, again, that's on my website. But your resume needs to get you into the interview room so that you can shine like a star and get that job, okay? And so if I can play a little part in helping you get in that room, I'm excited. I hope that what we're going to talk about today, 6 things an AD looks for, you might not have ever thought of these things or thought along these lines before. And so hopefully I'll be able to help you out. So, yeah, I have been an athletic director for just 6 years, okay? Not a long time. I'm not sure what the turnover rates are, but I know that they're high for athletic directors in a lot of areas. But 6 years, and currently I'm an assistant principal. As an assistant principal, one of the things I do is oversee athletics. And so we've hired, 1 coach this year. So, as an instructional leader at a school, I've hired 27 coaches over 6 years and a few months here, okay? Those are head coaches, obviously. My very first day on the job as an athletic director, July 1st, 2007, I had to hire 3 head coaches right out of the gate. And let me tell you, that's not fun, okay? When you get to a school, you start a new job as an AD, and you got to hire head coaches right out of the gate. That was a very stressful time, and you got to hire 3 of them, right at the same time. It's an interesting scenario to be put in. But that's a little bit, I've been a head coach for 8 years, head football coach, and so I believe I've hired, maybe 25 assistants, maybe not that many, at 2 different schools. No, not 25. There's no way it's been that high. I think I laid it out here somewhere. 15. About 15 assistant coaches as a head varsity coach, okay, over the years. I hired 5 coaches one off season alone when we started a JV team. I, had to hire that's a lot. That's the most I ever hired in one off season. for those 5 spots, those 5 interviews, 5 positions, I interviewed about 20 candidates for those 5 positions because I really believe in casting as wide of a net as possible to hire the best guys you can. When I hire a head coach, like the last time I hired a head basketball coach, I had about 100 applicants, and I interviewed 7 of them preliminarily on the phone, about 7 interviews on the phone, and really dug into those 7. And then I brought in 3 of those 7 for an interview with myself and the assistant principal. So I wanted just to lay out some of my hiring experience so you know that I've seen hundreds and hundreds of resumes as somebody making a hire. And then obviously in this line of work, I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes a year. I think I've done a really great job of hiring coaches, to be very honest. Not to, toot my horn, but just to lay out as we talk about what an AD looks for. I'm talking about the good ADs. At my school in Orange County, California, a school called Capistrano Valley Christian, we set a record there. We won 5 league championships in my 4th year as an AD. So my first year we won 1, and then we won 2, and then 3, and then 5. And so you can see there the progression. We built that thing up over 5 years. And, I had a couple very good coaches on staff, and then we hired some very good coaches, to make things happen. But the proof is always in the pudding, so as they say. At Excelsior Charter School, where I spent a couple years as an AD, okay, they won. Now listen to this, because it almost seems absurd, like you're making stuff up. But they won 3 league championships. They won 3 league championships in 10 years. Okay, 10 years. I got hired. I worked there at the end of a school year. Okay. In our first full year, I got hired in the spring. Okay. I got hired May, June, 4 months before the start of the school year. In our first school year there, we won 6 league championships. Now, do you think we had all these awesome, dynamite, phenomenal players all of a sudden to go from, again, they won 3 in a decade, 3 league championships in a decade. We won 6 my first year there. So what changed? I'll tell you, what changed from the top, the focus from the superintendent was athletics has got to be better, and he helped me to fund it better. But the thing that changed was the athletic director and the vision that I had, and then we changed out some real important coaches. We made some really strong hires to some programs. For instance, they had won only 30% of their softball games over 5 years. Well, we made a change with the head softball coach because that's just not very good. That doesn't cut it. Okay? And our head softball coach won a league championship in that year. I had a girls volleyball coach actually came to the first meeting with me with her keys ready to quit. And I knew she was very good. I met with her for a few hours. I could tell she was very good. Talked her on to staying. Let her know that, hey, the direction of athletics here is changing quite a bit. You're going to be supported. Here's my vision on how we're going to do this thing. And she came around, ended up staying there. She won the school's first volleyball league championship, So we put some really good pieces into place there because we know what to do. We know how to hire and fire coaches to get the best possible results. Head coach searches can bring anywhere from 5 to 75 resumes is my experience. Okay? There's a lot. Again, we've flown a job. I've had 5 applicants. 5. I've flown a job. I've had 75 to 100 applicants. That basketball one I told you about. Okay? Again, I like to cast a very wide net. I like to cast a very wide net to get as many folks in. And what that means is I'm going to put that job everywhere I can. Every job board, every job listing to get as many resumes as possible. So let's jump into this thing. The first thing an athletic director looks for on a resume, I believe. Now, again, folks, I did not survey athletic directors for this. I'm talking about my experience. I have talked to a lot of athletic directors about this. I've talked to a lot. I've talked to probably 30 or 40 ADs about, about this, but I've not done a formal survey. But I will tell you the first thing an athletic director is going to look for is experience. What kind of experience is a candidate bringing to the table? Okay, and we're going to talk through 6 things an AD looks for. Might give you some different thoughts and ideas about how to put your resume together. So I'm going to look at your experience. Has this guy been at multiple schools their whole career? Have they been at one school? Have they been at what level? Varsity or JV their whole career? If I'm hiring for a varsity coach, varsity head coach, does this coach have any varsity assistant experience? Okay. Is there any college experience? I really think that if you've coached at the college level for 1 year, that's probably like 2 or 3 or 4 years worth of experience for the high school level. On the flip side of that, if you've only been at the college level and now you're trying to get a high school level job for whatever reason, maybe, I've seen it where guys want to settle down into one place, in one community, stop moving all the time. Well, you might not be the best fit because now are you going to be able to throttle down a little bit your expectations for everything? Okay, your expectations for funds, for the kids, for the commitment. So sometimes that experience you bring to the table as only a college guy might not be real helpful, to be very honest with you, no matter how successful you've been. Okay? I had a guy once call me up. He says, hey, do I need to send you my resume if I tell you all the NBA guys I've coached? I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I'm a private coach, and I've coached all these NBA guys. He starts naming them, and I don't know them because I don't know the NBA very well. But I flat out said to him, sir, I really could care less how many guys you've coached in the NBA. That doesn't mean anything to me, because those guys would be in the NBA with or without you. And he did not like that comment, but that's the God honest truth. Okay, so experience, I know it's a broad word that covers a lot. The schools they have been at, I'm going to look at. The coaches they have coached under, I'm going to look at. The jobs that they had there, I'm going to look at. Are you bringing a lot to the table experience-wise? Have you overseen stats? Have you overseen the video department? Have you overseen fundraising? Sometimes that experience, especially if you're going to be a head coach, sometimes that experience is more helpful than anything on the field that you could put together. I think a lot of coaches, especially a lot of young coaches, they miss that boat. They miss that point. To some ADs, to some principals, what you do off the field is just as important as what you're going to put on that resume that you help to do on the field. Okay? So I'm going to look at that experience. Number 2. So I chalk up all those things to the experience category. Number 2, I'm going to look at the quality of program you've been at. To me, the quality of program a candidate is coming from is actually probably more important than the amount of years they've spent coaching. Experience, right? I want to say that again. To me, the quality of a program a candidate is coming from is more important than the amount of years they've spent coaching. Let me explain that, okay? For instance, if I have 2 guys that I see they're pretty evenly qualified across both guys' resumes, but one has been a varsity defensive backs coach for 15 years at a school that has won 1 league championship and made it to the playoffs every year, versus a defensive backs coach who had only coached for 6 years, but those 6 years they were in the playoff every year, and they had several state championship appearances. I would lean towards that experience of coach number 2, who's coming from a very strong program, because although the other guy, sure, he's coached for 15 years maybe, he's not coming from a quality program. So, what kind of quality coach is he? And there's quality coaches in bad programs, don't get me wrong, okay? But what kind of quality does that person bring to the table if they haven't been around a very strong program? Okay, so I really think that that's an important aspect of the resume. Number 2, the number 2 thing there, the quality of program you've been at. Okay, and I get that question a lot, and you might want to Google this because obviously, maybe I'll put it in the show notes I'll put it in the show notes. I get this a lot. Should I be a JV head coach in XYZ program or a varsity assistant in ABC program? What will look better on my resume? I get that all the time, okay? And I wrote an article on this finally because I was so tired of answering the same question. Literally 30 or 40 times in off season, I'll get that type of question, maybe more. And so I wrote an article, and now I just link guys to that. So I'll put that in the show notes. The show notes are at 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. That's where you can see those show notes, okay? And that's an article about, should I be a JV assistant here or a varsity assistant there? And I think that's a very important question to ask yourselves as you're, mapping out your career or as you're moving through your career. The third thing, number 3 thing I'm going to look for on a resume, did this coach make improvements? Did the coach make improvements? I don't want to see on your resume that you were a special teams coordinator for 4 years at XYZ school and you coached running backs for 6 years at this school. Okay, I want to see that you improved, and this is my secret to making tremendous resumes. See, I'm giving the secrets away. One of my secrets, you need to show that you've made improvements. Okay? You need to use statistical analysis, show that you've made improvements at the places you've been. I want to see, as a wide receivers coach, I don't want to see, hey, my guy led the league in receptions. What does that really mean? Think about it. Think about it critically here, honestly. If you're a baseball coach and you say that my starting pitcher went 12-0, okay, who cares? Maybe you just happen to have the best pitcher in your state living in your own backyard. You think that has much to do with you? Honestly, right? So that doesn't mean much to me. Listing every single all-league player you've ever had, I don't think it's an effective use of space on a resume. Okay? Listing every single college athlete you've ever coached, depending on how long your resume is, might not be the best use of space on your resume. Again, most of those kids probably would have gone to college if the sheep and the goat from FFA coached them, right? They're freaks of nature. They're tremendous athletes. But I do want to see that we increased collegiate student-athlete scholarships by 35%. Whoa, that's an eye-turner. That's telling me something now about you as a coach. I do want to see that my running backs improve from 3.8 yards a carry to 4.9 yards a carry. Wow, okay. Now you're telling me something, okay? So that's something I'm going to look on your resume. Did you make improvements to the program? When my resume as an athletic director, when I say on my resume, hey, we won 6 league championships in my first year, comma, they had only won 3 in the 10 previous years, it's a pretty dynamite bullet point. That right there, honestly, right? That bullet point alone should probably get you an interview for an athletic director job. That one bullet point. Here's a story. I was talking with a guy years ago about how to make his resume. And I said, Coach, what is your team? And he called me and said, man, I'm not in a very good program. We went 5-5 this year. I said, okay, 5-5. What did the program do last year? Because 5-5, that was his first year there. I said, what did the program do last year? He goes, Coach, they were 0-10. So, all right. Wow, 0-10 to 5-5, man, that's tremendous. I did that out here in California in 2006. There were only 7 teams in the entire state. Remember, we got 1,000 teams playing football out here. There were only 7 who went from 0-10 to at least 500. And there were about 50 teams. So listen, there were about 50 teams who were 0 in 2005. They did not win a game. Only 7 of those 50 got back to 500 the next year. And we were one of those 7. I was very proud of that. We lost 1 game on the last play of the game with the offense on the field. We lost 1 play, last play of the game with the defense on the field. So, I mean, we were that close. We were 2 plays from going 7-3, which, that's a tremendous turnaround. So on my resume, my football coaching resume, you'll see that at that job. Improved the program from 0-10 to 5-5 in my first year. Well, this young man talking to me says, I need some help. I don't know what to put on my resume. We're only 5-5, not that good. I said, what'd you do the year before? He said, oh, coach, they were 0-10. I said, wow, 0-10 to 5-5. How about the year before that? Coach, they were 0-10 that year too. I said, dang, 0-20 to 5-5. It just got better. How about the year before that? He goes, coach, let me stop you. These guys had not won a game in 6 years before I got there. I said, wait a minute. They were 0-60, and you guys went 5-5? And he said, yes, sir. He said they were about 0-67, and we went 5-5. I said, then that's your first bullet point, okay? And I said, if an athletic director does not bring you in the room, stop reading that resume after that bullet point alone. You should not go work for him. And I ain't kidding, guys. If I was hiring a head football coach and I saw that he led a program from 0-67 to 5-5 in my first year, I'm done. That's going in the yes pile. When I'm looking through resumes, I have 3 piles. I have yes pile, no pile, and maybe pile. Yes pile, yes, I'm going to interview him. No pile, no, I'm not going to interview him. Maybe. I might interview him, okay? I put all those piles together. Once I'm done looking at all the resumes, I do that all at one time. Yes, no, and maybe, okay? And I'm going to take those no's and I'm going to file them in a round file. And I'm going to take those yeses and I'm going to interview every one of those guys. And I'm going to take the maybes. I'm going to go through that file and I'll probably interview about half of those guys. Now, when I say interview, the process I've always used is I will do a preliminary phone interview with my top maybe 10 to 20 candidates, depending on how many applied, okay? And it's usually a certain percentage of how many applied, like 15 to 20%. I'm going to have a phone interview, and I'm just going to kind of get to know the person for 15 or 20 minutes. I'm going to answer any questions they have about the job. Sometimes, the whole conversation ends after that phone call because they say, hey, I need a teaching position. I teach science. So I'm going to say, well, I don't have a science position. You still interested in moving forward? Nope, I'm not. Or it'll be like, oh, wow, I didn't know stipends. I didn't know you only made $4,500 as a head coach. Yeah, no, I can't do that. So that preliminary phone call, usually takes some clients out of the record, not clients, some candidates. It'll take some guys out, and usually I'll narrow that group in half now for the in-person interviews. That's kind of what I've done as an AD. Not every AD works that hard. I worked very hard as an AD to find tremendous coaches. I'll be very honest with you. Some ADs out there do not work very hard at all. They just want to find a coach because they don't really care. Let's just lay it all out there as it is. That's the truth. That's the facts of the matter right there. And then some of those ADs, they just don't care because their school doesn't care. Their school doesn't care because their school or their district doesn't give them very much time to be an AD. And so they're just trying to stay alive and keep teams fielded. And so because their school district or their school doesn't care, they don't care. That's just kind of how it goes, right? So anyway, that's a whole different tangent. But that's the third thing I'm going to look for. What kind of improvements did you make? Now, number 4, the fourth thing I'm going to look for, did you innovate? Did you innovate? Because I want innovators. I want thinkers. I want guys who are going to change things up, bring things in fresh. Listen, 9 times out of 10, when you're looking for a head coach, it's because something went bad. Usually, we're not at the high school level, especially. Definitely at the college level, I would say 9.8 out of 10 times. I mean, you're not looking for a head coach because your guy got, picked and he did such a good job, he got a big promotion. That's usually not why you're looking for a coach, right? So, usually your program needs to make some big-time improvements. So, I want to see, did you innovate? Are you a status quo type of person? Or are you an innovator? That's very important to me. As an athletic director, I like innovators. I like coaches who think outside of the box to get the job done. Not clock watchers, guys who are just happy with fielding a program. I've been at relatively, smaller schools most of my career. At the small school level, coaches have got to share athletes. They have to rely on some fundraising. They have to work harder to keep their kids in the school and in the program at small schools. And so coaches who don't innovate at that type of school, they're not going to be able to build a very good program. Okay? And so I want to see innovation on your resume. I want to see you started programs at places you've been. When I say programs, I mean like I want to see, hey, you started a fundraising program. You started a study hall program. You started some kind of community outreach. You started an athletic leadership program. Okay? An after-school study hall, as I just mentioned, whatever it is. I like to see innovation on a resume because it really tells me a lot about the coach. It tells me a lot about their passion. It tells me a lot about their work ethic. Okay? So that, again, that's a really big deal to me. I want to see if you innovated. And again, that's going to look good on a resume. If you were the type of person who innovated. Okay, you did things the right way. You did things by thinking outside the box. You built your program through bringing in resources and other programs into your program to build that thing out, to help that thing get back on track. Okay, you didn't just rely on the X's and O's. You didn't just rely on the kids, in the building, but you built a community of people to surround that program, to help that program, because you innovated. I love innovators. I love new thinkers, okay? And then the fifth thing I'm going to look for on a resume, did you move up the ladder? Did you move up the ladder? Okay? Most career counselors will say it's important to move up the ladder, and I agree. I want to see that your career has progressed in a way that you've moved up the ladder. Usually, coaches who don't move up the ladder, there's something. Some guys just don't ever want to. One of my best friends I coached with for a long time, he's a firefighter. He had no desire to ever become a head coach. He was a dynamite defensive coordinator. That's all he ever wanted to be, okay? But he moved up the ladder. He started at the JV level. He started at the JV level as a position coach, became a JV DC, became a varsity position coach, So you can see he moved up the ladder, but he wasn't moving anywhere up higher than that. So I want to see coaches applying for head coaching positions have put their time into the profession, have done a good job of moving up the ladder towards being a head coach. It amazes me seeing resumes of football coaches. I see these all the time, applying for a head football coach job after having only coached for a few years. Many times these are younger guys, cocky guys. They think they're God's gift to coaching. They coach for 2 years, and all of a sudden they can run a varsity program with 150 kids in it, Folks, that's just not happening in most cases. And some guys, they've worked for really bad guys, right? They've worked for a really bad coach and a really bad program, and so they've had a bad example, so they think, I can do better, and that's why. But, I was named a head coach once where one of the coaches I inherited on the staff also applied for the job. That dude, he had coached football for 1 year, yet he thought he knew enough to take over a program. So he had been an assistant coach for 1 year, and he applied for that head coaching job. Okay, amazing that you think you might be able to do that. If you are just making a lateral move to my school, I'm going to really look at the reasons why. I would hate to see you make a lateral move again away from my school after I've invested in you. Does that make sense? So if you're just making a lateral move into my position that's open, I'm going to kind of look into that, try to figure out why you're making that lateral move. Okay? And if you've done it once, you might do it again. And so I want to be careful about that. I don't want to spin my wheels hiring coaches all the time. Okay? So I want to be careful about that as well. Okay? All right, let's talk about the next thing here. We're going to talk about number 6. Did your teams under or overachieve? This might be the most important thing for me on a resume, second to the experience. Second to the experience. I want to see that the team that you've coached, the teams you have coached, that those teams have overachieved. Again, this tells me a lot about you as a coach. let's face it. We all know coaches. We all, okay? Every one of us listen to this podcast. We all know coaches better. We all know coaches, okay, that we are better than. I'm just trying to think out of phrases without being too mean. You and I, we have lost jobs to coaches that we are better than, okay, who have won a lot of games simply because they're athletes that they're surrounded by, okay? I've lost a job to a head guy who lasted 2 years at a place. I was so mad he beat me out for that job. And then I'm like, dude, if I had the coaches he had, that guy can't coach himself out of a paper bag. But if I had the kids he had, I'd have an even better record. Okay? A monkey could come to their school and win. Right? And then, they get the job. Anybody can coach. Like I said earlier about that guy coaching all his division NBA players. Anybody can coach New England Patriots to a high school championship because they're the New England Patriots. They would demolish everybody at the high school level, right? Well, we all know coaches who have had that kind of success. They inherited tremendous success, or, they're in a phenomenal school, and and I know they're not that great of a coach. They're in a freaking great place. And yeah, they're a good coach, but man, their kids just win no matter what. So I want to see, have you been able to win and achieve with mediocre talent? To me, a coach who gets the most out of his team is much more valuable than coaches who have won with stacked teams. Again, have you been able to achieve with mediocre talent? Because when I'm looking at these resumes, I see a guy coming from, let's take, if you're from Southern California, maybe and if you're not, maybe you've heard of Modern Day. Let's say the offensive coordinator, I don't even know who it is. Offensive coordinator in Modern Day, he applies for a job and he's going to get automatic interview because he's the OC at Modern Day, one of the top 5 programs in the nation, okay? But let's say you got the head coach at, Fairmont Prep. It's a school in Anaheim, small school in Anaheim. Should that guy just be automatically denied because he's a Fairmont Prep, the other guy's a Modern Day? I mean, that guy at Fairmont Prep, he might be one heck of a coach who went 7-3 with a bunch of scrubs, right? So a good AD, a good principal, whoever hiring, making this hire, they're going to evaluate this stuff. They should evaluate this stuff. One of the things that bugs the junk out of me at the NFL level is we see all these retread, right? We see all these retread NFL head coach hires. It's like, what makes you think they're going to win over here if they couldn't win over here? Okay? They got lucky for 3 years. They got hot because they had, this, that, and the other guy. And then they get their head coaching job and they're awful there. Mike McCoy comes to mind, He had a little bit of success with the Broncos. Gets a football job with the Chargers, and I think he lasted 3 years, And there's all kinds of examples like that all over the place, but I'm going to look on your resume for that, okay? What have you gotten out of the teams that you've coached? Overachieving coaches will always be overachieving coaches. I'm going to repeat that. Overachieving coaches will always be overachieving coaches. They will always be able to get every drop of talent out of that sponge. That's how an overachieving coach is coached. Coaches who have won because they were surrounded by great athletes, they always have a difficult time when those athletes graduate, right? They got by on being lazy when those athletes were there. Sure, that coach won, 30 football games in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But, man, they had the best kids that have ever been in that school. What happens when they all graduate? Is he a program builder or is he a team builder, right? Those are the questions I'm asking. So I want to see you overachieved where you were. I would rather hire a 4-6 coach, and I mean the heck out of this. I hope you understand this. Not every AD thinks this way. But I would rather hire a 4-6 coach who should have been 2-8 but overachieved and won 2 extra ball games, I'd rather hire that guy than a coach who went 8-2, but should have been 10-0. He should have been 10-0, but he went 8-2. Man, I'd take Coach A every day of the week. That guy who won 4 games instead of 2. I'll take that guy over the guy who won 8 games instead of 10. Okay? So these are some things for you to think about on your resume, things that coaches are looking for. Make sure you do a very good job hitting those 6 different aspects on your resume. 6 things I think athletic directors are looking for. Experience, okay, that's important. The quality of program. Did you make improvements where you were? Okay. Did you innovate? Did you move up the ladder? That's an important question. And did your teams under or overachieve? So those are my 6 things. If you're listening to this and you're an athletic director, principal, you think I missed some real big ones, hit me up. Let me know what I missed, because I'm sure, I'm missing some things. But those are my kind of top 6 things I'm going to look for on a resume. Hey, I hope this has helped you out. Please check out the Football Coaching Podcast Network, the Football Coaching Podcast Network at footballcoachingpodcast.com. We've got some really good speakers on there with some great podcasts. Coach McKee, Coach Hanstadt, okay, Coach Joe Daniel. Check out footballcoachingpodcast.com. You can find me, yours truly, Chris Fore, at 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Fore, COACHFORE. And my email, CHRIS, Chris at 8laces.org. Folks, you have a great day. Thank you for listening. Again, if you're serious about putting together a resume, check out my 90-minute video on CoachTube. CoachTube, my 90-minute video. Use the coupon code RESUME to save $20. You'll get it for $9. I encourage you all to check that out. And we will talk to you again soon. Until next time, this is the Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore.
And folks, that about wraps it up here with Coach's Locker Podcast episode 22. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned quite a bit about your resume and what athletic directors are looking for. If you don't feel confident at all about building a resume out, as I shared earlier, that's something I do. You can check that out at 8laces.org, EIGHTLACES.org/resume. Read a whole lot about what coaches have said there and place your resume order today. Or find somebody that can help you, hopefully somebody with an athletic background, a coaching background. Do not waste your money on one of these resume sources from the business world. Somebody said to me before, I can go on Fiverr and get a resume done for like $5. Good luck with that. Try it out. See how it looks. See how it works for you. It's $5. That's not much money. Go see, and good luck to you. If they get something great for the coaching world put together, that's tremendous. So anyway, wish you the best of luck for those who are needing to put together a resume. Please check out Coaching Locker Podcast on Football Coaching Podcast Network. That's footballcoachingpodcast.com. Got some really great speakers there. Check the lineup of speakers out there. Also, if you enjoy my Coach's Locker podcast, once again, I'd love it if you wouldn't mind going on to Apple and just, give me a nice rating there, maybe making a comment or two. Thank you, folks, for listening to the Coach's Locker podcast, episode 22.